Hi guys, welcome back to the home and Homestead. Today we'll be doing a food preservation project. We'll be doing some canning. This is part 2 of a 4-part spring canning series. We'll be doing some different flavor pairings with some of the more common spring harvest produce that you can find. Today we'll be doing a candied jalapeno, which is also a sweet jalapeno chutney. I've also seen it called Cowboy Candy. And that'll be using some jalapenos we had mixed with some sweet and tangy ingredients to make a nice condiment, or added to cream cheese or other such items would make a nice appetizer. So when I do my canning, I like to get all my supplies ready. So I have my canning jars laid out, and I have a stock pot here just on a low setting, keeping the jars that I'm going to be using warm so that they will be of a similar warm temperature as the hot item that I'll be canning. I use an 8.5 quart Dutch oven for cooking what I'm going to be canning. We have a glass top stove top. While you can use a water bath canner on some stove tops, depending on the canner, I feel more comfortable using an electric side burner. So I have one here, and I use my water bath canner on there. I have a laser thermometer off to the side there, and that works well for monitoring the temperature of the water that's boiling. I also like to have all the ingredients set up and ready to go. I have canning salt, sugar, my measuring utensils. I have some tucked in there. I plan to do some jam later. I have a canning ladle that works very well for getting all the little nooks and crannies of the pan or pot that I'm using to get those items into the jar easily. And there's a canning funnel that I use whenever canning. And then we have the ingredients here that we'll be using. So now let's get our ingredients into the pot and get them cooking. Okay, so what we'll be doing today is cooking down some sugar and vinegar, and then we'll be adding some sliced jalapenos. So the amounts that I'll be using today is 1.5 pounds of jalapeno peppers. That's about 30 peppers. And 1 cup of apple cider vinegar, 2 cups of sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. So we'll get the burner on here. And first we'll get the sugar and apple cider vinegar and salt into the pot. It's important whenever you use a vinegar for canning, it'll tell you on the recipe, but typically you want a 5% acidity, which just apple cider vinegar has. Cup of apple cider vinegar and 2 cups of sugar. And 2. Just even up all that sugar, we'll add a teaspoon of salt. We'll get this cooking. So once this comes to a boil, then we'll add the jalapenos. Okay, so the sugar has dissolved and it's starting to boil here. So let's get the jalapenos added. I like using this little Pyrex measuring bowl. It has a spout. It works really well. I can prep whatever fruit or vegetable I'm going to can and then dump right into the pot for cooking. So we'll bring this up to a boil. Once it comes back up to a boil, we'll cook for 5 minutes. So these are boiling now. I'll set my timer for 5 minutes. And that should help thicken up this simple syrup here. Okay, so the jalapeno peppers have been boiling for about 5 minutes. Now it's time to get them into the jars, and then we'll process them. So I'll take the jars out of my stock pot here that I have them just warming. I'll use my canning ladle here. I think I'll do 1 scoopful in each jar, and then I'll top off with the remaining syrup here so that each of the jars has a similar amount of peppers in there. figured it would make about 4 jars. These are half-pint jars, but we shall see. All right, so let's add some more to each jar to the top here. So it looks like this will make 3 and a little half jar. Now let's get the rims of the lids wiped off and we'll get the lids on. Just want to make sure any sticky syrup and food is off of the rim there. So put the lid on and then lightly screw on, just hand tight, the ring. There we go. And we'll get these into the water bath canner. All right, so the water bath canner is boiling. I've used my laser thermometer to check the temperature and it's right where we want it. So we'll get these jars into the water bath canner. And we'll process them for about 15 minutes. Now, based on your elevation or your altitude, this may differ for you. I'll show you a table that most every canning cookbook has, but this is from the Ball Blue cookbook, the boiling water method, and it's the altitude chart. So it goes by what your altitude is in feet and how many minutes you should process, both for water bath canning and for pressure canning. So we'll let this process for 15 minutes. All right, so the candied jalapeno has finished processing. We'll remove the lid and we'll let them cool just a bit for about 5 minutes, and then we'll transfer them over to the drying and cooling area. During the processing time, I usually like to kind of tidy up the kitchen, wash the pots and utensils and things, perhaps prep the next fruit or vegetable that I plan to be canning, and that's what I did today as well. So let's transfer these jars over to the cooling area. All right, so we were able to can 3.5 jars of the candied jalapenos. And I like this smaller size. It's great for giving as gifts or putting in a gift basket, or maybe bringing to a dinner party with some cheese and crackers. When I was cleaning up while it was processing, I had a little taste of this that was on some of the spoons, and it's very good. I like the clean, sweet, spicy taste of this particular recipe that we did today. Online, I was able to find a number of recipes, but they usually had turmeric and garlic and things like that, and I really like the simplicity of this particular recipe, and I will do this one again in the future. These would be great on the cheese board, or perhaps even dolloped over the top of some cream cheese, some crackers and things. I could see that being very tasty. Okay, well, here is the finished product of the candied jalapenos or sweet jalapeno chutney. I've also seen this called Cowboy Candy. I enjoyed trying out this recipe here, and the changes that I made were a success for this new treat that we'll have in our pantry moving forward. So now what these jars will do is we'll let them sit for 12 to 24 hours while they cool, and I make sure that they seal. Then I'll remove the rings and label them and place them in our canning pantry. I have some other videos on food preservation and canning. We have some pressure canning and other water bath canning videos as well, so take a peek at those if you're interested in canning and food preservation. Well, I hope you enjoyed this part 2 of a 4-part canning series. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Take care.